Well, I had a few internet problems recently, and that prevented me from uploading any videos or really playing World of Warships Legends at all. But don't worry, the internet is back up and running, and here we are today with a video in the legendary tier Dutch cruiser Gouden Leeuw. Luckily, I had this footage lying around because it came from my previous Saturday stream, so you might have already seen it. And this is a rehash of what you've already experienced, but if you weren't there for that stream, and I know I don't stream at maybe the opportune time for a ton of people in the United States of America, but I assume for Europeans who are in a later time zone than most everybody in America, it's probably a great time for me to stream. So maybe you've seen this if you're from like the UK, but good chance that maybe you missed it if you're from the US. So you're in for a treat, particularly if you hate the Dutch cruisers. The Gouden Leeuw is perhaps not the biggest recipient of Dutch cruiser hate, just because I don't know if everybody's completed the Bureau project to get it yet. I think it's perhaps the lower tier Dutch cruisers that receive the most hate. And before the battle picks up, let's do a little bit of going back in history. I did a bit of research on the past few patch notes and Ministry of Balance articles to see if I could find the Gouden Leeuw's name mentioned anywhere in the balance change section, and I couldn't. But what I did find was in the October 2025 update, the Tier 8 Johan de Witt, the predecessor to the Gouden Leeuw, had its airstrike reload time increased to 100 seconds and its accuracy on the airstrikes reduced, so that there's only a 50% chance of the bombs falling near the central aim point instead of a 66% chance. And then in this very update for March 2026, the Johan de Witt had its HE bomb fire chance reduced from 35 to 28%, and the fire chance on its main battery guns reduced from 20 to 18%. As you can see, though, the Gouden Leeuw itself has no problems lighting fires. I think we were just dropped there by the enemy Gouden Leeuw, who hit us for something like 15,000 damage. Totally fine, perfectly balanced, I would say. And some of that, of course, comes from the Conqueror, too, because I think he shot at us simultaneously. So not all that damage was inflicted by the Gouden Leeuw. But he did light 3 fires, which we promptly extinguished with the damage control. And perhaps the reason so many fires were lit, and also it could be the reason that we ourselves are going to get a triple fire lit with a bomb drop on somebody here shortly. Well, we have a 39% fire chance on these bombs, which is what, 13% higher than what our predecessor at Tier 8 has? Do we see anything wrong with this picture in terms of balance? I don't think so, probably not. Main battery guns, too, we should look at those because we have a 20% fire chance, which the Johan de Witt used to have, but now it only has 18%. 2% from 18 up to 20, not exactly a big jump from tier to tier, probably nothing wrong about that either. And besides, these guns are not exactly what you would call accurate. They have a sigma value of 2.05, which is certainly good, but the dispersion numbers, I mean, if you look at the max range horizontal dispersion, 187.6 meters, if you look at the vertical range, 112.6, I think these are bad numbers, and it's going to mean you're going to miss a lot of shells, but, 12k against a Conqueror with the airstrikes, you can certainly still do some damage. We have run into the greatest counter, of course, for the Gouden Leeuw, which is being spotted when we don't want to be. Another thing that helps this ship probably not need a nerf like the Johan de Witt is my commander choice. Of course, we don't have the fully packed skill. So instead of having 3 repair parties, we only have the base 2. And it's not like these are good repair parties. If you take a look at the numbers, 271 HP per second on these repair parties for a duration of 28 seconds. I can't remember off the top of my head what the San Martin's numbers are for the repair party, but I know it restores more than 300 HP per second. The San Martin, of all things, has better heal than the Gouden Leeuw, so again, what's the problem? And, if you looked at the internet around the time that these Dutch cruisers were initially released on forums of great intellectual discussion, like Reddit, or Facebook, or even the YouTube comments section, you would have seen the thinking man's mind, because of course this is the thinking man's action game, come to a very thoughtful conclusion that the presence of the Dutch cruisers with their airstrikes, which can deal perfectly reasonable damage and are not, overpowered in any way, you would have heard that these airstrikes were going to be an impediment to what most battleship players or most average battleship mains seem to hate in World of Warships Legends, which is the cowardly hiding cruiser behind an island. If you hide behind an island and you're sitting still and spotted, these airstrikes are going to hit you. And, that Conqueror over there, he just got tagged by one. It lit 3 fires and it did 14,000 damage. This is the ultimate punishment for island camping, as the geniuses of the internet will tell us. And, well, pay no attention to the fact that there's an island to the left-hand side of our ship that is totally blocking the Conqueror's line of sight, and that no ship with conventional artillery-based armaments, i.e. main battery guns, can actually lob their shells over that island and hit us. But we don't have to worry about the same thing, because we can call in this Call of Duty airstrike thing here, and we can just drop this Conqueror for, who knows, untold amount of damage. Let's see, the last one did 14,000. I don't know if the lineup on this one was exactly correct. And in fact, we aren't going to really pay attention, I guess, because, well, there's Gouden Leeuw right here. But 7 hits, 1 fire, that was probably like 10,000 damage. Nothing wrong with that. Gouden Leeuw, he's pushing in, big mistake. These Dutch cruisers thrive when they're imitating the things that they're the counter against, the HE spamming cruiser. If they cosplay as those and hide behind an island, they're basically indestructible. But if they come out here in a brave push into the Charlie cap that their team has already taken for no reason, well, that's, playing into the blue team's advantage here. The Gouden Leeuw, I think, is still broadside to us as well. I think I don't actually know what he's got his bow aimed against. There doesn't seem to be really anything south of this cap now that the Wisconsin has abandoned it for reasons unclear to me. And, well, Gouden Leeuw versus Gouden Leeuw, perfect counters to each other. I guess the deciding factor is who has more HP. And apparently that's me, because we take out the enemy Gouden Leeuw as he misses us with the last airstrike, which certainly could have ended our battle and sent us back to port. And that would have been a real tragedy, because up until this point, we've only done 106,000 damage, but I think there's room for about 104,000 more before this battle ends. Plus, it's a close one. You can see that the blue team has put all their eggs in one basket for the Bravo cap, and, well, we've succeeded in taking it, which is great, but the Charlie cap and Alpha are both red. So we've got friendly destroyer buddy over here inside the Charlie cap, Z52. He's going to be taking that, and that's good. However, there's 2 enemy battleships left alive versus mostly just cruisers, aside from that Wisconsin, who perhaps believes he is a cruiser, judging by his position tucked safely behind some islands there. I don't think he's in any danger, really, of having to tank or lose any HP against this full health Izumo right there. And then there's another battleship behind that guy who may or may not be full health. I don't remember, actually. But as you can see, the blue team does have an advantage in kills. 4 ships left alive on the red team, 6 left alive on ours. They might have 2 battleships, while we have 3 cruisers, one of which is, sort of on its way back to port in the form of this Gouden Leeuw you see sailing in the middle of your screen. 1 hit from this main, 1 hit from this Izumo. We're probably toast, even though the Gouden Leeuw is pretty well armored, which is another good thing about it, of course. It has an icebreaker at the waterline. It does have 25mm armor on the bow, but the icebreaker's 40mm, which will, of course, prevent anything from accessing the Citadel through the bow. And then, in a perfectly balanced way, it's got 40mm upper belt armor, and it's got a 30mm deck. That 30mm deck is not going to be bouncing 457mm shells that come in vertically, so clearly nothing wrong there. And if you looked at the concealment, you would see that in the top right, or top left-hand corner of the screen, my concealment value is 9.7 kilometers. That's because I've got Johan Furstner at the helm. We've got Makawa as one inspiration. We've got the Risk Theory skill, which gives us 3% better detect. And we've got the concealment module. The second inspiration on Firstner, though, is Lemonnier, because he makes the ship go darker after the firing, or go dark quicker after the firing penalty. But if we replace Lemonnier with Swirsky, then we'd be down in the low 9-kilometer range with this 40 millimeter armor plating we've got, with these airstrikes that we can launch from stealth over islands from positions where nobody can possibly fight back. And, well, this just goes to say that the ship is potent, but clearly perfectly balanced, because you would think, with all of these things going for it, it would probably win every single match it plays and carry. Well, you see here, it's now an even 4v4. I don't know what happened, but these four enemy ships took out two of the blue ones, and now things are on a level playing field. We've got our destroyer, the Z-52, somewhere on the broadside of both this main and Izmo, and it looks like his torpedoes are going to find their mark on this full health IJN battleship. Well, he's not full health anymore, is he? No, he's about 1/3 health, I suppose. And the question is, who do we deploy these two airstrikes against? Do we do it against the Izmo or the main? Well, porque no los dos. There we go. Airstrikes for both of you. You get an airstrike, you get an airstrike. And, well, okay, we're within 8 kilometers of the thing, but the special effect from the legendary skill is not activating right now. 4 bomb hits on the Izmo. Fire, probably a perma-fire, and then, another 13, 14, maybe even 15,000 damage there against the main. Takes him out with that airstrike. That's 2 kills, 2 fists, and Izmo continues to burn as he comes around this corner. Spotted, courtesy of the friendly DD, who hopefully will launch some more torpedoes. We'll see. But at the moment, somehow, the Bravo Cap, despite the fact that there's a friendly cruiser and a friendly battleship right in front of it, it's turning red. It's being captured by either the last remaining enemy destroyer or the last remaining enemy cruiser, or both. It's kind of unclear. We have to worry about them. We also have to worry about Izmo. And, well, there's Khabarovsk. He's a really annoying destroyer with the open water gunboat, agile cruiser style gameplay. Can we hit him over the rocks here? I think it's important that we do. Maybe at the time I was playing this battle, I didn't realize quite how important that would be. But we miss, probably because we're bad at aiming, or just because the Gouden Leeuw is so perfectly balanced that it's got some questionable accuracy on the main battery guns. And 5 overpens there against the San Martin of all things. Come on. We should be doing better than that. Airstrike in the air. And, well, let's see how much damage we do here. I don't think the drop was quite right. That was only a really low damage roll, maybe like 3 or 4K there. But we do get either the high caliber Confederate medal. I don't know which one came first. And San Martin, he's well on his way back to port. That Wisconsin takes him out. And that just leaves Khabarovsk. But if you take a look at the point situation here, it is 561 versus 670. The enemy has 2 caps. We need to get into this Bravo cap like 2 minutes ago. Wisconsin, though, he's closer to the Bravo cap than we are. He is not going into it. Perhaps he's one of those ships that is afflicted with the allergy to caps. It happens a lot. People need to take Benadryl while playing this game constantly to mitigate the effects of that allergy. They just enter a cap and their nose spontaneously combusts with a bunch of sneezing and running and whatnot, and it's just very unpleasant. Luckily, I don't have that allergy, and I don't think the Z-52 does either, because both of us are going to get into this cap and halt the enemy accrual of points. But it's all for naught, of course. There's only 1 minute left to go in the battle, not even. We're barely going to flip the cap in that time, and we would have need to have flipped it moments ago in order to overtake the enemy on points. Unless we can sink this Khabarovsk, this one is a loss. But we've got these airstrikes. We can send them out there blindly. We kind of know where the Khabarovsk is because Risk Theory gives us an RPF indicator, so we can even send some shells downrange in the direction that that thing is pointing. And, whoa, what do you know? We do get a hit. We get an incapacitation on the Khabarovsk, likely breaking one of his super useful torpedo tubes, but we deal 0 damage with that hit, and we cannot follow it up with another hit at all. Unfortunate. If we could, then maybe we could rightly say the Johann de Witt is totally, or why do I keep calling it the Johann de Witt? That thing was nerfed. The Gouden Leeuw, we can say that it is a perfectly balanced ship. If it weren't, do you think when we got 15 fires and we got 210,000 damage, but we didn't win? Well, if this thing were overpowered, we would be winning this match, just like the Louisiana. If you remember that video, I proved beyond the shadow of a doubt that the Louisiana was perfectly balanced because we did something like 200,000 plus damage, but we lost, much like this battle. And again, one data point is all you need to conduct science, according to the experts. And from this one data point, we can safely conclude that if the Gouden Leeuw was totally overpowered, we would have won that battle, but we didn't. So it's perfectly balanced, and it definitely doesn't need the same nerfs as the Johann de Witt, nor does it need a nerf to its perfectly reasonable concealment. Definitely not. Hope you enjoyed the video. If so, give it a thumbs up. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.